Welcome to Think IP, the podcast where we simplify complex legal topics for creatives, businesses, and everyone in between. I'm Dr. M, and today we're diving into the fascinating world of copyright. Copyright is everywhere, whether you're streaming your favorite show, buying artwork, or even creating your own content. It's a cornerstone of protecting creativity and ensuring fair use. Over the next 15 minutes, we'll cover what copyright actually protects, who owns it and how it's transferred, what happens when copyright is infringed, and the critical concept of fair dealing. Understanding copyright is not just for professionals, it's crucial for anyone who interacts with creative content, which covers nearly all of us. Whether you're an artist, a musician, a business owner, or just someone who loves sharing interesting things online, having a grasp of copyright can save you from legal headaches and empower you to navigate the digital world confidently. So let's unlock the mysteries of copyright together, and if at the end you want to know more, subscribe, and I'll send you a free copy of my 300 plus Think IP book. Let's start with the basics. Copyright is a legal shield that protects creators by giving them exclusive rights to their work. These rights cover a wide range of creative outputs: literature, music, art, films, and even sound recordings. It's like an invisible force field around your creative work, giving you the power to decide how it's used and shared. But here's a critical point. Copyright doesn't protect ideas. Instead, it protects the expression of ideas. Think of it this way. You and I could both have the same idea to write a song about summer, but the actual lyrics, melody, and arrangement we each come up with will be unique expressions of that idea. Let me give you an example. Imagine you have a brilliant idea for a novel about space pirates. The idea itself isn't protected by copyright. You can tell everyone about your space pirate idea and no one can steal it and claim it as their own. However, the moment you start putting pen to paper or fingers to keyboard and crafting that idea into a story with characters, plots, and dialogue, that's where copyright protection kicks in. This distinction is crucial for creators. You can share ideas freely, collaborate with others, and get feedback without fear of losing your rights. It's the unique way you bring those ideas to life that copyright safeguards. And did you know copyright also protects performers in their live performances? So, musicians, actors, and even circus performers can rely on copyright for certain protections. Now that we understand what copyright protects, let's talk about who owns it. In most cases, the creator, the artist, writer, musician, is the default copyright owner. This makes intuitive sense, right? If you create something original, you should have the right to control how it's used. But there are important exceptions to keep in mind, and these often trip people up. It's crucial to understand these exceptions, especially if you're working with others or creating work as part of your employment. Let's break down some common scenarios. First, we have the distinction between employees and contractors. If you're an employee creating something as part of your job, your employer typically owns the copyright. Think of a graphic designer creating a logo for their company or a software developer writing code for a new app. The employer is usually considered the copyright holder. However, if you're a contractor or freelancer, the copyright usually remains yours unless otherwise agreed. This is why it's so important to have clear contracts in place that outline ownership rights. Don't leave it to chance or assume anything. Now let's talk about commission work, where things can get a little trickier. For some types of commission work, like private portraits or photographs, the person commissioning the work may own the copyright unless a different agreement is in place. Let's say you're a photographer hired to take family photos. Unless you have a contract stating otherwise, the family who hired you, not you, the photographer, might own the copyright to those photos. Again, clear communication and written agreements are key. And here's something interesting. In Australia, there's no need to register your copyright. It's automatic from the moment your work is created. That's right, no lengthy forms to fill out or fees to pay. However, this doesn't mean you shouldn't document your work. Keeping good records like dated drafts, original files, and even using copyright notices is essential to proving ownership if a dispute ever arises. Think of it like this. You don't need to register your car to prove you own it, but having the title and registration documents can be incredibly helpful if someone ever questions your ownership. Alright, so you've poured your heart and soul into creating something amazing. A catchy jingle, a stunning photograph, maybe even a groundbreaking invention. As the copyright owner, you have economic rights. These rights give you control over how your work is used commercially. You can reproduce, share, and license your work. This means you can grant permission to others to use it in specific ways, in exchange for economic benefit. Think of it like this: your copyright is like a key that unlocks various doors of opportunity. Want to reproduce your work, make copies to sell, or even prevent others from doing so? That's your right. Want to share your masterpiece with the world through public performances or broadcasts? You have the power to decide how, when, and where. These economic rights are powerful tools. They allow you to license your work, meaning you can grant permission to others to use it in specific ways in exchange for, you guessed it, economic benefit. This could be anything from a flat fee to a royalty agreement. Remember that jingle we talked about? Imagine it catching the attention of a big brand. With your economic rights, you can negotiate a licensing deal that puts your music in their advertisements, potentially reaching millions of ears, and of course putting some well-deserved cash in your pocket. Now let's talk about something equally important as economic rights: your moral rights. These are all about protecting your connection to your creation, your artistic integrity, if you will. While economic rights focus on the financial side, moral rights recognize you as the creative force behind the work and protect your reputation as an artist. One of the key moral rights is the right of attribution. This means you have the right to be properly credited whenever your work is used, displayed, or performed publicly. No more anonymous masterpieces hidden in the shadows. But it goes beyond just getting credit. Imagine someone takes your work, modifies it drastically, and then presents it in a way that completely misrepresents your artistic vision. That's where the right of integrity comes in. This right allows you to object to any distortions or modifications of your work that could potentially harm your reputation. And here's the interesting part. Unlike economic rights, moral rights cannot be bought or sold. They are inherently linked to you as the creator. However, you can choose to waive these rights in specific situations if you wish. This delicate balance between economic and moral rights ensures that creators have both the financial freedom to profit from their hard work and the artistic freedom to protect their creative vision and legacy. When does my work become protected by copyright? Good news. No paperwork or fees needed. In most countries, including Australia, copyright is automatic. From the moment your work is fixed in a tangible form, it's protected. No applications, no registrations, no fuss. This is a fundamental principle of copyright law. It lets creators focus on creating without legal worries. Registration isn't mandatory but can help in court. Like car registration, it proves ownership. The same applies to copyright. We've talked about what copyright protects and the rights it grants. But what happens when someone crosses the line? That's where copyright infringement comes in. This occurs when someone uses copyrighted material without permission, violating the creator's exclusive rights. Now, you might think infringement only involves directly copying an entire work, like photocopying a book or distributing an identical copy of a film. However, infringement can be much more subtle than that. It's not just about the quantity of the work used, but also the quality. Using a small but significant part of a copyrighted work can still constitute infringement. Think of a catchy melody from a hit song. Even if you only use a few bars without permission, you could be liable for infringements. The key is whether the portion used represents a substantial and important part of the original work. This is why understanding the nuances of copyright is crucial for anyone who interacts with creative content, whether you're an artist, a business owner, or simply someone who enjoys sharing content online. Now, before you swear off ever using someone else's work, let's talk about exceptions. One of the most important exceptions to copyright infringement is the concept of fair dealing. Fair dealing allows for the use of copyrighted material without permission in specific circumstances. In Australia, these circumstances include using copyrighted material for research or study, criticism or review, parody or satire, and reporting the news. These exceptions exist to ensure a balance between protecting creators' rights and allowing for freedom of expression, innovation, and access to information. However, fair dealing isn't a free-for-all. The use of copyrighted material must be fair, meaning it must be reasonable and not unduly prejudice the legitimate interests of the copyright owner. For example, copying an entire textbook for your class would likely not be considered fair dealing for research or study. Always remember, when it comes to fair dealing, context is key. If you're unsure whether your intended use falls under fair dealing, it's always best to err on the side of caution and seek permission from the copyright owner or consult with a legal professional. Navigating the world of copyright might seem daunting, but by taking some practical steps, you can ensure you're both protected and operating within the law. Let's start with protecting your own creative work. Firstly, whenever you're creating something, especially if it's for someone else, be crystal clear about who owns the copyright. Having a written agreement in place that outlines ownership rights can prevent misunderstandings and disputes down the line. Secondly, make it a habit to add copyright notices to your creations. While not mandatory in Australia, a clear copyright notice such as "See your name here" serves as a visible reminder to others that your work is protected. Finally, keep detailed records of your creative process. This includes things like dated drafts, notes, sketches, and even early versions of your work. These records can be invaluable in proving ownership and originality if any disputes arise. Now let's talk about using copyrighted material created by others. The first rule of thumb is simple. When in doubt, ask for permission. It's always better to be safe than sorry. And many creators are happy to grant permission for the use of their work, especially if it's for non-commercial purposes. If you're relying on fair dealing exceptions, ensure your use genuinely aligns with the legal guidelines. Ask yourself, is my use transformative? Am I adding new meaning or context to the original work? Am I using only as much as necessary? And most importantly, is my use likely to harm the creator's ability to profit from their work? Remember, fair dealing is not a loophole to exploit. It's a carefully balanced exception designed to allow for specific uses of copyrighted material. Misunderstanding or misusing fair dealing can have serious consequences. Finally, educate yourself. Resources like the Australian Copyright Council website provide a wealth of information on copyright law and best practices. And there you have it, a crash course in copyright. I hope you now have a clearer understanding of this vital area of law and how it protects creativity and innovation. Remember, copyright doesn't just benefit creators. It benefits all of us by fostering a rich and diverse cultural landscape. If you enjoyed this episode and want to dive deeper into the fascinating world of intellectual property, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and claim your free copy of the Think IP book. It's packed with over 300 pages of insightful information that will empower you to protect your ideas and creations. And as always, if you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment below, and share it with your network. Let's spread the knowledge and empower more creators to understand their rights. Until next time, keep those creative sparks flying, and remember, think IP. It pays off.